does not come out of gear if your foot is off the clutch. If you press a little bit, and it does. Same with second. Okay. So because the gear lever won't move when your foot is off the clutch, I'm going to use this to hold the clutch down so we can move the gear linkage under the dash with only one person. So I'm putting this in just to hold the clutch pedal down while we work. Okay, so first, we're going to do first gear. So the gear lever is going into first position. Okay, now we need to make sure the gearbox is in first position all the way in. So we undo this nut here. We can untake this out, and we check that this is all the way up this way in the first gear position, because that's in first there, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And so this is all the way in first. So you can see from that if that lever there moves all the way into first, it's going to be pulling this all the way into first, because this is as far as it goes. So that's okay. We know that that's going to pull the gear all the way into first gear. Right, now we're going to shift the gear lever to reverse, because we're still working with this linkage. Reverse. What are you doing there?
Reverse. Showing the arm.
Okay, so now this one is going the other way for reverse. So we need to check that this is all the way this way. You can't push it, it's in reverse. And this will allow it to go even further, so that's good. That means that the gear lever inside the car is moving the gears all the way in the direction that we want. Now we need to do exactly the same thing with this bar. The only difference with this one is that that nut is a left-hand thread. This is a normal thread which unscrews this way. If you need to adjust it, this is a normal thread, and this one is a backwards thread. So you just have to remember that it's got these little notches here which denote that it's a backwards thread. So I can tighten this one up now. We didn't have to adjust it in this case. Okay. And once you've adjusted both of the gear linkage rods, or at least checked the adjustment on both gear linkage rods, we can release the clutch pedal. And as you can see, with the clutch pedal released, this doesn't come out. So we're going to put it into the neutral position. Clutch pedal is released, and we now must check that the T-bar is returning all the way. So both of these are locked in the neutral position. Okay, it's very important that the T-bar returns all the way in to the gearbox when the gears are selected, when it's in gear and your foot is off the clutch, and also when it's in neutral and your foot is off the clutch. Okay, so that's pulling the T-bar with the foot on the clutch, that's selecting gear, and now foot off the clutch, that T-bar has to return all the way back in. You can see I've put a white mark on it just to show when it's all the way in, like it is now. It must go all the way back in, because when that is in, the gears cannot move. So I'm thinking when it jumps out of gear, that T-bar must not be in the right place. So that's back in neutral now, and again, foot off the clutch and the T-bar returns all the way. So it's important that that when it's in the first gear, second gear, third gear, when it's in all the gear positions, that the T-bar returns, and also when it's in neutral, that the T-bar returns. As long as the T-bar is returned all the way in, it should not be able to jump out of gear. One of the reasons that the T-bar might not return all the way in is if the adjustments on these linkages are incorrect, i.e. the gear is not being properly selected. Because if the gear is not being selected correctly on these with these linkages, then the T-bar won't be able to go back all the way in. So if we do the checks and adjustments on these first and check the T-bar, and it should be okay. If the T-bar is not okay, then we have to again remove these and jiggle them back and forth and see what makes the T-bar return, and then adjust it accordingly.